Good evening. Um, Going to get 14 chapters 14 and 15 done. Probably that be it for tonight. Not having a greatest day today. Don't feel great. Um, Anyways, Jubilees 14. After these things, in the fourth year of this week, on the new moon of the third month, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a dream, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy defender, and thy reward will be exceeding great. And he said, Lord, Lord, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go hence childless, and the son of Masech, the son of my handmaid, is the Damascus Eliezer. He will be my heir, and to me thou hast given no seed. And he said unto him, This man will not be thy heir, but one that will come out of thine own bowels, he will be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said unto him, Look toward heaven, and number the stars, if thou art able to number them. And he looked towards heaven, and beheld the stars, and he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and it was counted to him for righteousness. And he said unto them, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur and the Chaldees, to give thee and land to the Canaanites, to possess it for ever. And I will be God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. And he said, Lord, Lord, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, Take me an heifer of 3 years, and a goat of 3 years, and a sheep of 3 years, and a turtle dove, and a pigeon. And he took all these in the middle of the month, and he dwelt in the oak of Mamre, which is near Hebron. And he built there an altar, and sacrificed all these, and he poured their blood upon the altar, and divided them in the midst, and laid them over again against each other, but the birds divided he not. And birds came down upon the pieces, and Abram drove them away, and did not suffer the birds to touch them. And it came to pass, when the sun had set, that an ecstasy fell upon Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And it was said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall bring them into bondage, and afflict them 400 years. And the nation also to whom they will be in bondage will I judge, and after that they shall come forth thence, and with much substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall return hither, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And he awoke from his sleep, and he arose, and the sun had set, and there was a flame, and behold, a furnace was smoking, and a flame of fire passed between the pieces. And on that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, To thy seed will I give this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates, the Canaanites, the Kenizzites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, the Pharachites, and the Hivites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. And the day passed, and Abram offered the pieces, and the birds, and their fruit offerings, and their drink offerings, and their fire devoured them. And on that day we made a covenant with Abram, according to as we had covenanted with Noah in this month, and Abram renewed the festival and ordinance for himself forever. And Abram rejoiced, and made all these things known to Sarai his wife, and he believed that he would have seed, but she did not bear. And Sarai advised her husband Abram, and said unto him, Go unto Hagar, my Egyptian maid. It may be that I should build up seed unto thee by her. And Abram hearkened unto the voice of Sarai his wife, and said unto her, Do so. And Sarai took Hagar her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to Abram her husband to be his wife. And he went in unto her, and she conceived, and bare him a son, and he called his name Ishmael, in the 5th year of the week. And this was the 86th year in the life of Abram. Jubilees 15. Man, I'm itching like crazy all of a sudden. Weird. Anyhow, and in the fifth year of the fourth week of this Jubilee, in the third month, in the middle of the month, Abram celebrated the feast of the first fruits of the grain harvest. And he offered new offerings on the altar, the first fruits of the produce unto the Lord, an heifer and a goat and a sheep on the altar as a burnt sacrifice unto the Lord. Their fruit offerings and their drink offerings he offered upon the altar with some frankincense. And the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am God Almighty, approve thyself before me, and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and I will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, and said, Behold, my ordinance is with thee, and thou shalt be the father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name from henceforth, even forever, shall be Abraham, for the father of many nations have I made thee. And I will make thee very great, and I will make thee into nations, and kings shall come forth from thee. And I shall establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee, throughout their generations for an eternal covenant, so that I may be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. The land where thou hast been a sojourner, the land of Canaan, that thou mayst possess it forever, and I will be their God. And the Lord said unto Abraham, And as for thee, do thou keep my covenant, thou and thy seed after thee, and circumcise ye every male among you, and circumcise your foreskins, and let it shall be a token of an eternal covenant between me and you. And the child on the 8th day ye shall circumcise, every male throughout your generations, him that is born in the house, or ye have bought with money from any stranger, whom ye have acquired, who is not of thy seed. He that is born in the house shall surely be circumcised, and those who thou hast bought with money shall be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an eternal ordinance. And the uncircumcised male, who is not circumcised in the flesh, of his foreskin on the 8th day, that soul shall be cut off from his people, for he has broken my covenant. And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai thy wife, her name shall no more be called Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and give thee a son by her, and I will bless him, and he shall become a nation, and kings of nations shall proceed from him. And Abraham fell on his face and rejoiced, and said in his heart, Shall a son be born to him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bring forth? And Abraham said unto God, O that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Yea, and Sarah also shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him, an everlasting covenant, and for his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, also have I heard thee, and behold, I will bless him, and make him great, and multiply him exceedingly, and he shall beget 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, from Sarah shall bear to thee in these days, in the next year. And he left off speaking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham did according as God had said unto him, and he took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and whom he had bought with his money, every male in his house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin. And on the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and all the men of his house, and of all those whom he had bought with money from the children of the stranger, were circumcised with him. This law is for all the generations forever, and there is no circumcision of the days, and no omission of 1 day out to the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance, ordained and written on the heavenly tablets. And everyone that is born, the flesh of whose foreskin is not circumcised on the 8th day, belongs not to the children of the covenant which the Lord made with Abraham, but to the children of destruction. Nor is there moreover any sign of him that he is the Lord's, but he is destined to be destroyed and slain from the earth, and to be rooted out of the earth. For he has broken the covenant of the Lord our God. For all the angels of the presence and all the angels of sanctification have been so created from the day of their creation, and before the angels of the presence and the angels of sanctification he hath sanctified Israel, that they should be with him and with his holy angels. And do thou command the children of Israel, and let them observe the sign of this covenant for their generation, as an eternal ordinance, that they will not be rooted out of the land. For the command is ordained for a covenant, that they should observe it forever among all the children of Israel. For Ishmael and his sons and his brothers and Esau the Lord did not cause to reproach him, and he chose them not because they are the children of Abraham, because he knew them, but he chose Israel to be his people. And he sanctified it and gathered it from amongst all the children of men. For there are many nations and many peoples, and all are his. And over all hath he placed spirits in authority to lead them astray from him. But over Israel he did not appoint any angel of spirit, for he alone is the ruler, and he will preserve them and require them at the hand of his angels and his spirits, and at the hand of all his powers, in order that he might preserve them and bless them, and that they may be his, and he may be theirs from henceforth forever. And now I announce unto thee that the children of Israel will not keep true to this ordinance, and they will not circumcise their sons according to all this law. For in the flesh of their circumcision they will omit the circumcision of their sons, and all of them, sons of Beliar, who leave their sons uncircumcised as they were born. And there will be great wrath from the Lord against the children of Israel, because they have forsaken his covenant, and turned aside from his word, and provoked and blasphemed, inasmuch as they did not observe the ordinance of this law. For they have treated their members like the Gentiles, so that they may be removed and rooted out of the land. And there will no more be pardon or forgiveness unto them, so that there should be forgiveness and pardon for all the sin of this eternal error. Let's do 16 too. And on the new moon of the 4th month we appeared unto Abraham, and at the oak of Mamre, and we talked with him, and we announced to him that a son would be given to him by Sarah his wife. And Sarah laughed, for she heard that we had spoken these words with Abraham, and we admonished her, and she became afraid, and denied that she had laughed on account of the words. And we told her the name of her son, as his name is ordained and written in the heavenly tablets, i.e. Isaac. And that, when we returned to her at a set time, she would have conceived a son. And in this month the Lord executed his judgments on Sodom and Gomorrah and Zeboim, and all the region of the Jordan, and he burned them with fire and brimstone, and destroyed them until this day, even as, lo, I have declared unto thee all their works, that they are wicked and sinners exceedingly, and that they defile themselves and commit fornication in their flesh, and work uncleanliness on the earth. And in like manner God will execute judgment on the places where they have done according to the uncleanness of the Sodomites, like unto the judgment of Sodom. But Lot we saved, for God remembered Abraham, and set him from the midst of the overthrow. And he and his daughters committed sin upon the earth, such as he had not been on the earth since the days of Adam till his time, for the man lay with his daughters. And behold, it was commanded and engraven concerning all his seed on the heavenly tablets, to remove them and root them out, and to execute judgment upon them like the judgment of Sodom, and to leave no seed of the man on earth on the day of condemnation. And in this month Abraham moved from Hebron and departed and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur in the mountains of Gerar. And in the middle of the 5th month he moved from thence and dwelt on the well of the oath. Dwell at the well of the oath. And in the middle of the 6th month the Lord visited Sarah, and did unto her as he had spoken, and she conceived. And she bare a son in the 3rd month, and in the middle of the month, at the time of which the Lord had spoken to Abraham, on the festival of the firstfruits of the harvest, Isaac was born. And Abraham circumcised his son on the 8th day. He was the first that was circumcised according to the covenant which is ordained forever. And in the 6th year of the 4th week we came to Abraham to the well of the oath, and we appeared unto him as we had told Sarah that we should return to her, and she would have conceived a son. And we returned in the 7th month, and found Sarah with child before us, and we blessed him. And we announced to him all the things which had been decreed concerning him, that he should not die till he should begat 6 sons more, and should see them before he died. But that in Isaac should his name and seed be called, and that all the seed of his son should be Gentiles, and be reckoned with the Gentiles. But from the sons of Isaac one should become a holy seed, and should not be reckoned among the Gentiles. For he should become the portion of the Most High, and all his seed had fallen into the possession of God, that it should be unto the Lord a people for his possession above all nations, and that it should become a kingdom and priest and a holy nation. And we went our way, and we announced to Sarah all that we had told him, and that they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. And he built there an altar to the Lord, who had delivered him, and who was making him rejoice in the land of his sojourning. And we celebrated a festival of joy in this month, 7 days near the altar which he had built at the wall of the oath. And he built booths for himself and for his servants on this festival, and he was the first to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles on the earth. And during these 7 days he brought each day to the altar a burnt offering to the Lord, 2 oxen, 2 rams, 7 sheep, 1 he-goat for a sin offering, and he might atone thereby for himself and for his seed. And as a thank offering, 7 rams, 7 kids, 7 sheep, and 7 he-goats, and their fruit offerings and their drink offerings. And he burnt all the fat thereof on the altar, a chosen offering unto the Lord for a sweet-smelling savor. And morning and evening he burnt fragrant substances, frankincense and galbanum, and stacte and nard, and myrrh, and spice, and costume. All these 7 he offered crushed, mixed together in equal parts, and pure. And he celebrated this feast during 7 days, rejoicing with all his heart and with all his soul, he and all those who were in his house, and there was no stranger with him, nor any that was uncircumcised. And he blessed his Creator, who had created him in his generation. For he had created him according to his good pleasure, for he knew and perceived that from him would arise the plant of righteousness from eternal generations, and from a holy seed, so that it should become like him who had made all things. And he blessed and rejoiced, and he called the name of this festival and festival of the Lord, a joy acceptable to the Most High God. And we blessed him forever, and all his seed after him throughout all the generations of the earth, because he celebrated this festival in its season, according to the testimony of the heavenly tablets. For this reason it is ordained on the heavenly tablets concerning Israel that they should celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days with joy, in the 7th month acceptable before the Lord, a statute forever, throughout their generations every year. And to this there is no limit of days, for it is ordained forever, regarding Israel, that they should celebrate it and dwell in booths, and set wreaths upon their heads, and take leafy boughs and willows from the brook. And Abraham took branches of palm trees and the fruit of goodly trees, and every day going round the altar with the branches 7 times a day in the morning, he praised and gave thanks to his God for all things in joy. All right. Thank you for listening. Have a good night.